When we look at disseminating information, you have to determine as part of your communications plan who you need to give information to. Is it only an internal audience? Is there an external audience? Have you defined it? Do you have contact information? And do you have defined methods and mechanisms for how you will contact people? You don't want to do it in a random fashion. You don't want to do it in an inconsistent fashion so that each time it occurs, you do it in a different way. You want to have standardized, consistent mechanisms for passing on information. You may define specific document types or communication types and have some guidelines out there that tell the recipients we will send an alert if it's a short-term thing. We will send an advisory if it has more technical implications and more technical mitigations. We'll send an FYI if this is just to let you know and that this could be a potential threat. And those are just made-up examples, but again, as part of your communications plan, you should establish what type of communications and what type of documents and what type of notifications you will send out and to whom. Are you going to send things via email? Do you have distribution lists that people subscribe to? Will you only send out original information, or will you actually forward or rebroadcast information from others in the security community or from the vendors as appropriate? Do you have a web page or a wiki page that people can go to look for information on ongoing incidents? You may have this internally for your internal employees. You may have this if you have an external constituency, if you're a coordination center and you want people to be able to see information. You also need to think about, do you have some type of method for uniquely identifying any of your documents or information that's disseminated? So is there some unique reference number to it that you can refer to? We've seen organizations use all different types of communication methods to get information to their constituency, to victim sites, to management, whether it is some type of blog, podcast, Twitter announcement, a full-blown advisory or alert, or maybe a document on the web page that is a frequently asked question or FAQ that explains the current activity, that explains what the incident is, where to get more information, the revised or the recommended mitigation steps, any workarounds, any patches, things like that. It's sometimes, if you have a call center or a help desk, you may have to put messages on the phone systems so that when someone's calling for information, if there's a large ongoing incident, they can get that information immediately and they don't have to wait to actually talk to a person. There can also be broadcast messages, RSS or Atom feeds. That may be another way to push out information that people then can take, because for RSS coming in XML and then incorporate automatically into possibly their own web pages or their own wiki pages. It could even be that if there is a large media presence or the public has known about information disclosure, breach, release of unauthorized data, that you might have to do press conference. And so again, how are you going to work your communications, and how are you going to involve the right people to ensure that what you're saying and what you're releasing is appropriate within your organization and authorized within your organization? And then how do you actually disseminate secure information? Again, do you have the right security tools in place? Secure phones, intranets, or secure extranets, secure chat, whatever you need to communicate internally and externally in a secure fashion. So very important things to think about as far as how are you going to disseminate information and what information are you going to disseminate to who. This slide has a list of questions that came from an actual press conference where people were asking about a particular malicious activity. And so this just shows you an example of a lot of the different types of questions that people might ask. And you can use these questions to help structure some of your information. You could use these questions to help build a frequently asked questions page. You can use this to build some type of announcement. And none of these questions, they aren't in order. These are the questions that were asked. But from this, you can certainly build some information documents. You can use these questions to help guide you to the types of things that you want to put in any information that's being released internally or externally. So there's some other best practices as we move through the response process and sub-process. Once response has been executed, a good recommendation is to conduct a post-mortem, or some people call it an after-action report. Hot wash is another name that we've heard used. So basically, it's pulling in all the key players and reviewing what happened during the life of that particular incident. We look at from detection through the triage and analysis and response processes, what was done, what were the problems that were encountered, where things went well, and when things didn't go well. Now, you do need to think about, with any type of post-mortem, when would you actually do it? Would you do it for every incident? Probably not, unless you have few and far between incidents. In that case, you probably would. But basically, you would think about your criteria for performing a post-mortem. It could include when things have gone really bad and the incident took a very long time to resolve, when there were complaints about how it was handled, where the processes broke down. It can also be when it involved a high-level critical asset. It can also be a post-mortem if there's a certain amount of damage done or a certain amount of financial loss that occurred. So think about when you would perform the post-mortem. You might also want to do one when things went really, really well and you executed that response in a manner that was timely, consistent, and full of quality. And then learn from that to say, okay, what did we do really well here that we want to institutionalize and make sure that we can do again? So again, the main purpose of the postmortem is to understand what went right, but also to understand and identify what could be improved, and is there a path forward? Is there funding for the improvements? Is there authority to put the improvements in place? And is there buy-in from the staff that will be affected by any changes? And those changes can go across. They can be identifying infrastructure problems to address, such as missing controls, not the right logging turned on, not the correct defenses in place. It can be finding new tools that are out there that you can purchase to put in place to help perform the response process, or to help prevent incidents or do detection. It can also be identifying policies and procedure problems. Maybe, for example, there was no social media policy and staff inadvertently released some personal information through the internet because they didn't know that they weren't supposed to. So now management needs to take a step to put a new policy in place, to get that approved, or to put at least some guidance in place, and then educate the staff on the new policies and any supporting procedures. It can also be identifying that training is required. It can be for the employees, maybe additional security training, privacy training, information disclosure training, acceptable use training. It can be any type of training issue to help them be more secure in their daily operations. Or it could be training for the incident management staff or other parts of the organization where problems were identified. If there was some confusion about who had what authority, who was really responsible for performing some response actions, that can also be identified, and that can be an area where clarification could be done to establish who really is responsible for specific roles, and identifying those interfaces. If there is no swim lane for response, maybe this is the time to actually build one. And then, are there new tools that can be purchased or acquired in some way to help not only from the response side, but are there additional tools needed for protection, detection, or even analysis? So all those things can come out of a postmortem. Then collecting those lessons learned and actually tracking those lessons learned can be important. If over time you see the same problem occurring when you do your postmortem, then again, that should be referred to that problem management group, or that might be upper management, to say that there's a larger systemic issue here that needs to be addressed. When we are looking at our response process and actually any part of our incident management process, we don't just want to develop guidelines, policies, procedures for how these functions should be performed, but we want to make sure that what we've documented and the guidelines that we've developed actually work right within your organization or within the environment. So the best way to do this is to actually test them through operational exercises. There are different ways you can perform operational exercises. You can set up a mock incident and not tell anyone, and watch what happens, watch how the incident is handled to test the current processes. You can also identify situations that have not occurred in your environment. Maybe you're a financial institution and you've watched another financial institution have a particular type of incident occur. So now you can do a mock dry run of that incident at your organization to see what would you do in that case. Do you have the right people in place? Do you have the right processes and policies in place? You can do that through tabletop exercises. That can even be your incident management team training, staff meetings. Those tabletop exercises can be good. But you want to also think about, can you do them across the enterprise? Can you do them at a larger scale to see that everybody really understands the steps that they need to follow? Some organizations participate in cyber challenges or simulations. They can be capstone exercises. They can actually be exercises working with your constituency. They can be hands-on computer exercises where you are looking to see, does the staff have the right knowledge to handle different types of computer security incidents. So there are many different ways to conduct exercise. The important point is think about what your processes are for incident management, particularly for executing and coordinating response, and then see if you can come up with various situations to test those processes. And again, once you do the operational exercise, do a postmortem so that you can capture your lessons learned, identify strengths, weaknesses, and gap areas, and then identify your recommendations for improvement. One of the things that having an incident tracking system can help with is collecting information about the various incidents that you've been handling. And one of the things that we have seen is that many incident management capabilities just simply see problems, rebuild systems, and don't take a look at the deeper root cause or systemic problem area. One of the things that can help with this is taking a look and doing trending. There are a lot of different types of analysis that can be done across the traffic that that information that you're collecting on your network, the types of incidents and vulnerabilities that you're seeing or have been handled. But trending is really looking for, are you seeing changes in the types of incidents your organization is the target of? If so, do you need to change your response processes? Do you need to change your prevention processes? Do you need to change your security defenses? Are you seeing the same incident come up over and over again? And again, does that show a systemic problem that needs to be addressed? Also, if you're seeing the same problem come up over and over, does this mean that your response and mitigation strategies were not effective? So there's a lot of various information that you can get from doing trending on the types of incidents and vulnerabilities that you have. Correlation actually addresses the fact of, if I have one incident that says, for example, a user found they got an email with a particular piece of malware attached to it. Well, are there others within my same organization who are reporting the same thing? So now, can I correlate those together, and do I see that the scope of this malicious activity is much broader than I thought? And what do I need to think about? And what are the consequences of that? Historical analysis can take you back and actually look at, well, we put these remediation strategies in place. Were they effective or not effective, by seeing what type of activity we're seeing today versus when that mitigation was historically put into place. And you can also look at reports, long-term reporting. Some organizations might work with law enforcement to research and publish cybercrime reports within their constituency. Others may look to publish information based on the types of incidents they're seeing within their sector. So also, can you take some of that trend information and share it publicly? We've mentioned about the importance of secure communication and ensuring that if there's data that needs to be protected, that you can protect that data in your response process as you're executing the response, and keep that data protected at all times in storage, in transfer, in data collection, and also ensuring that you have the right mechanisms in place and the right training for staff on actually using the secure communications and knowing when to use those secure communications.